All right. I think you should be able to see and hear me. Let's see. Maybe. Sure. Let's turn on some noise cancellation so it's less gnarly. Auto gain control. All right, we're on autopilot now. Yeah, so you can see, you can hear. Cool. I'll talk to this camera. Actually, this is hard. I need like a face to talk to. Let me make a quick face here to put on the camera. It's been a while since I talked to the camera, so there's no face on it like usual. What is wrong with it? Boom. Let's do an art project. Welcome to this week's What the Heck. I can just decorate that there. All right, let's draw a little face so I know where to look. I don't know. It just feels nicer than looking into like the cold glass eye of social media. There we go. Hi. All right. Yeah, this is I think I mentioned in Discord. Um, this is episode 100, I believe. I think Enthusiastic Electrons confirmed it. The actual 100th episode. So to celebrate, it's going to be the last episode for the indefinite future. It's not you. It's not even me. I'm just sort of like out of time on stuff. So I need to make some time. And believe it or not, this takes up enough time to where it like gets in the way of stuff. Whew. Like right now, I just got an alert to go rescue a person, but I think I'm going to pass on this one because they're just like, they got their Jeep stuck. They'll be fine. Yeah. And what else was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I just want to make some time to like make some sounds. I'm like basically after Monday, all my streaming commitments are done. So this one included will be done for a while. I do want to keep it going. It's not dead. I just need a break so I can work on some new cool stuff. Because right now, my schedule is such that I have a little baby bit of time on the weekends to work on new sounds and music and just have fun. And then Monday rolls up. And I have a streaming event on Mondays now that was really fun, but it usually means that like, okay, Monday's when the new stuff stops and I roll back into old stuff. And then throughout the week, I've been doing lots of other things after work, so I just don't have any time. So yeah, that's the reasoning. So today, I feel like it's just hard to wrangle people sometimes, and I wasn't feeling it today, so I figured we could just do an easy AMA. So like, ask me anything. In the meantime, I can talk about other synthesizer stuff, some news. Not that I know any news. Like, there's some cool stuff. Like the FX Boy is still cool, and Instro has a cartridge for it, which is pretty rad. That'll be, I think, I'm not sure if that counts as an Instro modular or not, but like, I don't know, maybe half, a third. That'll be this 1 1/3 Instro modules I'd have if I get that thing. Let's see. Let's check the chat. I can't see it from that far away. Breaks are good for the soul. Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm not planning on really taking a break. I just want to make some music, and this cuts into that time. Yeah, so that's why. Yeah, and I think it's actually episode 88. I just wanted to 84. I keep rounding up. Yeah, so that's what's on my mind. I want to build some modules. I'll probably do some building streams here over the next few weeks. I would like to finish out, let's see, this case over here. And this, sorry for the janky camera, whatever. This case down here, I don't want to, I want to finish up a bunch of modules so I can actually screw them in once they're all made. Wooden rails, so you kind of got to do it on the first try. Like, this module's not even screwed in, it's just like wedged in there currently. So if I unplug things, it's a little rowdy. So that's some things that I just want to get done. Yeah, AMA history. What got me into modular? The pocket operator over here. The speak specifically. Come on, little buddy. I don't want to break you. Oh wow, that was really on that hook. Yeah, this little pocket operator. That's what's got me into modular, and the problem was it was too small, so I had to make something bigger. That's not true at all. I saw a pocket operator, got into some making some sounds, realized there's tools these days that allow less musical people to make music with less of a steep learning curve. And so I started playing around on like the iPad and stuff like that. Got some synths. Uh, SynthTube pointed me towards Look Mum No Computer, or maybe it was Colin Furze. I'm not sure. One of those, from one of those directions in YouTube, either like the chaotic building direction, sort of group of people that just put flamethrowers on like vacuum cleaners, or it was the synthesizer crowd. But yeah, that dude at the time was doing these really very straightforward, low key builds, like enough to where I wasn't intimidated. Like when he'd build a case, it was like, a bunch of splintery wood bolted together. And I was like, ooh, I can do that. I already knew how to solder a bit, so I decided to make some modules, starting with one of the Look Mum computer modules. He went on, I think his goal was to release a module every month, which he pretty much did that year. And I built the first one, which was this module here. And it's an original series because the screw holes don't line up with any of the other Cosmo modules, so I can't like put that on metal rails ever. But it escalated quickly when I realized, oh, it's a filter. I probably need a sound source. I mean, it self-oscillates. So yeah, I just kept building. COVID hit around that time too. And, when you're stuck in a house and garage and trying not to get sick or get other people sick, find other things to do. I was sort of done with TV. So this was an outlet. Yeah, and I would say like that yeah, I'm really thankful for that. It's been pretty fun. Yeah, I really like the chaotic sort of DIY aspect to it when I have the time. In fact, I have just ordered my first new module of the year. Not a Eurorack module. I have not broken my goal of no new Eurorack this year, but it is sort of Euro-racky. It's a nervous squirrel version of this like Euro-rack playset adapter thing that we've got here that fits in Cosmo. I saw he had made one for his 5U system, like an adapter so he can test his new Euro-rack modules. And I was like, that would be sick if it was Cosmo. And he was like, hit me up. So did that. Very excited about that because it means I can actually solve some of the problems with this little case over here. Like, for example, the Manus Iteritas sounds phenomenal, but it sounds especially good when paired with this really sort of chaotic spring reverb Cosmo module down here. So if I have it in this case and that, I have to do like some cable conversions and things. I just move it down here right next to it. Going to be just beautiful. So yeah, that's that. What's in my build queue? Geez, that's an embarrassing question, actually. We'll start with reverse chronological order. So that one that I just mentioned, the sort of tester, I forget what it's actually called, from Nervous Squirrel. I'll put that together, which means I probably need to order some rails soon. The MIDI to CV module, I've already built one over here, but I want to put one over there too, the Cosmo one. I have to do that. I have to build finish building a twin T drums module. It sort of sounds like sort of those old drum beats that come on old Casios and stuff, like the stuff you would hear next to an organ. It has that kind of vibe with those drums. Looking forward to that, to get some nice like bossa nova or whatever. I have a VC ADSR, voltage control ADSR Cosmo that I want to build. I mean, all of these are Cosmo sized. I think I've started on that. What else? I just have a few things. A lot of them are like utilities. Oh, the mixer, another VCA, quad VCA mixer for Cosmo. And this is to just sort of flesh that bottom case out so it's good to go for just playing with it rather than right now it's very sketch. And then I've got a bunch of other stuff, including the baseline and things like that that I've just accumulated that I need to build. And all of those are in process, including almost all the modules that I'm talking about. I've started outside of the one that hasn't arrived yet. I've just been like waiting on one part or another part. So I finally think I have all of the parts to continue building until I find out I've forgotten to order something. So they should be pretty fast. Like the twin turbo, the twin T drums was just, I keep calling it twin turbo, but the twin T drums was just waiting on a part that is it in here still? I think I took it out. Yeah, it's already out there. Just one part. So that one should be pretty fast. What's next? Bossa Nova Funk. Have I bought blank Cosmo panels? Yes. The answer is yes. I bought them last year because I ordered. Those are two more modules I need to build. A couple modules from a builder on the forums, and he also happened to have aluminum blanks already cut, looking nice, in the right size. Like that was very luxurious. So I ordered a few of those as well. But typically here I can't get a couple things. One, it's hard to find sheet aluminum in the correct thickness at an appropriate size online or even near me. It's either way too thick or way too thin. You typically want like 1.2, 1.3 millimeters thick, somewhere in that range. And I have ordered a couple of them. It is expensive. And what I end up getting is something that's pretty big and gives me about pretty big, being like a 1.5 by 1.5 feet. It's always in Imperial because why not? Which means I have to cut them down and drill a bunch of holes. Yeah. And actually, that's one more project I want to do that's sitting on my bench that I'm hoping to get done before August is make a custom panel for Cosmo panel for the MS-22 filter and just go real big with it. And that I think I'll probably either go like 10 centimeters wide, which is sort of like these oscillators here, or I may just go a full 20 by 20 like this filter up here, just for dramatic effect, even though it's the tiniest little module in the world. Yeah, it's really not easy to get modules in that aluminum in that size here. I've been eyeing like 3D printers that can also do some CNC and laser cutting. Those are not really the most promising because the laser cutting isn't quite strong enough to cut through aluminum that thick, and maybe the CNC can do it. I don't know. But that's also really expensive, so it's not high on my priority list. And the reason I'm looking into that is it's really kind of a pain to drill a lot of holes in aluminum accurately, like a lot of the time into measuring, making sure things are in the right spot, making sure I'm using the right drill bits, that kind of thing for each socket. Like I have 90% of a panel done for the fidget spinner module I've made, and all I really need to do is drill a bunch of holes, and I've just been putting it off because when it's a whole thing about aluminum getting melting at a real low point and low temperature and welding itself to your drill bit, which is fun. Yeah. General question: how are your cases organized? Yeah, good question. So top case, the first case I ever made was this one. You can tell because it's a little narrower because when I measured 80 centimeters, I didn't measure from the inside of these two pieces of wood. So it's actually a little smaller than I intended. But it actually looks fine with the phone on it now. So good job, past me, kind of. But it was designed to be a single, like a mono synth, right? Maybe one or two voices. It's sort of 1.5 right now. And this case below it was meant to support it. It's now got a set up for a bass voice mega drone. And then it's got some additional utilities with this Euro rack row, including the ears and cinnamon, which I'm using to make my voice sound good when I use the phone. This thing, I don't. It's probably too lit. Actually, it's unplugged currently, so because I'm using the clean mic for this. So that's how this one was arranged. Like they're just single synths because the modules are so big. There's not a lot to it. So we've got like oscillators, filter, triple splashback effect, one envelope, the quad VCA. Got an LFO, a couple of utilities here, including a sub oscillator, two buffered mults, a stutter module that I made, and one more distortion effect and an envelope. So there's like not a ton going on there, like compared to Eurorack in the same space has a ton of modules. And that brings me to the other cases. The Tiny Cosmo, this case over here is a Cosmo-sized case with Eurorack, filled with Eurorack. And this one is designed to be 3 to 4 voices and drums so that I can just take that case and the hot box and go play a set. So that's how that one was designed. Pretty similar thinking, just I had the luxury of some Eurorack modules, which do great. One of the voices was designed to this voice, the lead voice on it has the MA35 filter from Manhattan Analog. That is the essentially Korg 35 chip filter that's used on this because I didn't want to take this places. It's old and I don't want to break it. So I can get that sound or close enough to it, that flavor with that voice. So that was some, other than that, it was just a playground. And then the last box is just a Cosmo playground. It might have some voices. It's just going to be whatever I feel like. So the last box is just going to be sort of random stuff. And this also had some utility at first. It was essentially a row of utilities and this sequencer, big honking button. But since it's more just where I put modules that I just want to show off a little bit, like this is a cool module that I made that uses these little like lights up PCBs and stuff to whatever gate signal goes in there, and that one I made myself. And then this sequencer, but like these aren't critical to anything I'm doing. So they can go maybe in that box or wherever. So we'll see in a bit. And yeah, what else? Next question. Am I going to make a Heck Cosmo module or line? I don't know enough about electronics to do that. I can draw pictures, cut stuff out of metal. But my modules are definitely ones that if folks buy, they would be essentially like at your own risk. Like probably add noise to your system, things like that. So probably not. The honk is not critical. I agree with you that it is actually critical. So this case will probably go with me if I do a show elsewhere. Some of the other stuff in there might get shelved as I build some other more essential modules. This sequencer I absolutely love because I really like the panel that I made. But if I'm out of space, I don't need to necessarily bring it because voltage, the voltage block can handle that just fine. Like I have a Ethernet cable between the systems, so I can do the same thing, same type of sequence I was getting from this for one particular track from that. So that's my plan there. Oh, I mean, hold on, let's get some more samples going. My favorite thing to do is go to the voltage input and then go into the attenuverter, and then I can go or love that sound. So dumb. Yeah, I love that honk. It's great. I was going to change it to something else, but I didn't. I think I may eventually turn that into a kick. But what I was hoping to do is get three of the big honking button, like maybe B stock circuit boards or whatever. Problem is Winter Bloom is too good at what they do. They don't have any B stock most of the time. So if I can get three of those, I basically want to make essentially a version of this that's three of them in one panel, and then I will make that into a little drum set that can do two things when you push it manually. Honk. Well, I don't know if that's considered a honk anymore. Let's get up to goose level. There we go. And if it's triggered via the trigger input, it will be whatever sample I put in there. And I can even make them rotate, so that can be pretty fun. Yeah. So that's my plan with that. Yeah. So, any other questions? Don't think I do have a non-Cosmo project, non-modular Cosmo project. This base here, I really like it, but I want to build a second one for those over there, and also to take to shows. So it would contain a couple of things. One, I've got a little black and white TV that I want to pull the guts out of and embed right in the front here and turn it into an XY oscilloscope. Probably safely. And then the other one is I've got some Morse keys that I might add on to the front here somewhere and turn into triggers for things. Maybe, I don't know if they'll be pitched, but that could be step one is like a trigger output. Step two is add a potentiometer to change the voltage output, I guess. Or maybe I can do two things. Anyway. Decoration question. Any story to the subscribe? Also DEF CON. That was the first DEF CON I played at, like in front of people on purpose, not just in a hallway. And unsubscribe, I noticed when watching some of my videos, like you can always see that sort of corner up there, and I was like, there should be something on there. So I started writing subscribe. And I thought it would be funny to leave the E off. Like it wasn't like I'm good at estimating things that I just, so I did. Somebody during a stream told me to put an L there. So I did. And then the unsigned, I thought also would be funny if I could just flip that around. The problem is I'm not tall enough to reach it, so I have to go like to the dining room and get a chair so I can reach it. It's like too far. So that one didn't work out as planned. So that's why that one doesn't switch too often. Unpatching technique. That's a good question. Depends on the scale. Because everything's vertical, very stable, but vertical, the higher I go up, the more leverage I have when I pull to potentially tip the whole thing over. So Cosmo is usually a two-hand job where I like put a hand on the face and then I pull it out with another hand. And I'm also typically, regardless of system, when I'm doing it, I'm sort of grouping a bunch in my hand so that the heads of all the cables are like kind of grouped like this, because then I can easily, very quickly, just grab one of the sizes, sort of do that, and then separate them and hang them up in their spots. I do that for Eurorack too. But Eurorack's I think a lot more satisfying to unpatch because there's less friction on the jacks from most of them. So I can just like grab handfuls of them and do that. I also don't tend to unpatch certain things if I don't have to. Like this voice is probably not going to change all that much. The things that I will change are sort of modulation, like where the modulation goes, whether I use the attenuator, stuff like that. So maybe a sub oscillator, that kind of thing. So yeah. Eurorack gets unpatched more often because I'm still in the rearrange phase where it's kind of nice to rearrange stuff every once in a while. And to do that, you got to pull all the cables. Well, it's just easier if you pull all the cables. And when I do that, I do actually take the case off. Like I pick the case up and put it on its back because it's just easier when gravity pulls the modules into place. Yeah, what else? Oh. I no longer hate MIDI, if that's what you're asking, which you haven't. I just feel like MIDI is pretty dang good for what it is. Yeah, I don't know what else. I just have a ton of projects to get done. I do want to make a lot of music with this thing, so again, unpatching isn't my highest priority. I've made like, I want to say like maybe 150 to 200 different projects in the Hape packs since I last cleared it out. So I'm probably going to go through those and basically doing like keeper archive with those, and like anything that I think is good enough to be in a set that I play more often, or perhaps something that I want to pull like riffs from or sequences from and make into a new thing. Those I'll keep, and everything else I will archive. So that's also on my to-do list, and what I was sort of doing before this. Like what we just listened to open this was made last February. I think that's wrong. I think this was actually made this February, but I hadn't yet gotten into the right mode of changing the year. So I was probably this February. Still a minute ago, but yeah. What else? Yeah, it's getting dark in here, so let me do this. Windows. That's another project I want to do. It's so bright in here that the oscilloscope is barely visible to the camera. I mean, I can see it very clearly, but the camera has trouble with it because the sun's reflecting off of its screen. And so I want to make some blackout shades out of cardboard in a tasteful way, I guess. How do I build a song? I mean, I don't have good answers for you. Like Jeremy from Red Green's recording has some good videos on some of that stuff, and probably all the other YouTubers that I take advice from. But basically, what I do is I make a really dumb riff. Doesn't really matter what key it's in. I'll just sort of pick a note and then be like, that's the mood I'm in, and then I'll build around that note to make a melody. Typically, I might start with a drum sequence if I have sort of a drum vibe stuck in my head. So one of those two things, and then I'll maybe work on bass line next if I haven't already done that. And just play around with those 2 to 3 things quite a bit to get a nice sounding vibe. Then I start thinking about build ups. Like, where does it go next? Like, what's the next page in this track, in this book, I guess, the story. And then I change one of those things or a couple of those things. I never change it too much, which is probably not a good thing, but that's typically how I do it. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just do like a melody sort of writing spree, all in the similar, using similar notes. And when I start sequencing out a song, something that I thought was really dumb, I'll accidentally hit. And it totally different vibe, but really works well. So I'll keep that stuff. So it's more of a quantity over quality thing, I guess. If you're spending too much time trying to make it high quality, I just suggest making a lot more crappier ones, and you'll might come up with some cool stuff. Other things that I've started doing recently when going back through tracks, like I did this for, there was some performance coming up, or that was coming up that I was sort of out of time for. I went back like the last like 8 track projects that I had made and like cherry picked some stuff from those and cobbled together a track that I quite like. So that's another way to do it, is you can pull stuff from different days and different moods and turn that into a thing. Also, this is probably more of the way I like to do things than proper songwriters, is my songs or projects is really more how I think of them. Tend to be, not all of them, but they tend to be things that I like to play for around 10 to 20 minutes. Like that's my track length. So I have a lot more luxury there. So I'm thinking about build-ups and transitions and things like that. I have a lot more time to play with. Not 3 minutes. I think it's harder to do 3 minutes. So yeah. What else? Yeah, whatever hits me in the moment is it. Sometimes that stuff happens when doing some exploration. So it's like really, I find it really meditative. It's very meditative to do sound design sessions. So that's where I may not even unpatch, right? Like I'll just see where I can go with one voice. Just flip this switch to turn the sound on and leave it on, and just mess around until I get some good oscillations, and then I'll turn that switch off and maybe mess with some envelopes or the filter or things like that. Sometimes I get really cool stuff out of that, like a whole track will emerge from that sound. Yeah. Like I've listened to some of my older stuff. Like this is one of the reasons I wanted to take some time, is I've listened to some of my older stuff and I was doing more of those sound design sessions because I just had more time. And often really interesting tracks are really interesting because the sound like the sound itself is very appealing. Like if it catches me, just like doesn't even have to be a complicated riff. Just like if you've got like a good, a slow attack on something that's just the right amount of snappiness on the bass line or something. And yeah, so I want to do a little bit more of that. Yeah. Album name, Good Oscillations. That has to be an album name. There's got to be like 20 album names already. Um, yeah, I do recommend like that's another advantage to having a sequencer with the ability to save projects is you can go back in time. So I save all of mine uh, with just the date. Um, Once they've graduated to something I want to play more than once, they get a name, but they start all out as a date. Um, because usually by the time I'm done streaming it, I'm sort of sick of it. Like, like I might have listened to it for an hour or two already when I was writing it. And then I stream for, 30 minutes to an hour. And by that point, like, I have no idea if it's good anymore. I'm bored. I'm out of there. But once a few weeks have passed, I might pull up some old streams of mine and sort of cycle through those a little bit and be like, oh, that was pretty good. I should play that again. And that's usually where they graduate to getting a name played over and over again, I guess. Yeah. But again, that's just because I can save projects. It's not specific to the Hapax, but is one thing I like about it. I think a bunch of the other modern sequencers can do that. Like Metron's got a bunch of ways to save projects and tracks, and actually the Metron's pretty incredible for that, along with improv. So that's pretty cool. I feel like the Metron's like exactly halfway between the Hapax and like the soft pop sequencer. Like there's like elements of both crammed into one thing. But what else? I'm pretty sure Erica Black can do that stuff. Anyway, that's how I go about it. And I don't know how often y'all clean your houses, but like during COVID, when like you had no guests coming over, or well, I guess it's still during COVID, but when everybody was actually trying not to get people sick and staying home, uh, we didn't have a lot of visitors, so our house didn't get cleaned nearly as often. It turns out, like having visitors sparks you to do some vacuuming typically, or like straightening up even. Like I don't know what level of cleaning you do, but we'll like straighten up and like put stuff away and that kind of stuff, make it a little more presentable. Um, and I think that's true of performances. So if you have like a performance scheduled, whether it's drone day stream or whatever, I feel the need to sort of like straighten out my stuff. Particularly if I'm streaming for more than 20 minutes, I'll like be like, oh, I've got a thing coming up. I better like clean out Hapax, remove all the old stuff just in case it freezes and I need to select a song again. I won't have to scroll through so many tracks. Um, anyway, it sort of kicks me into gear. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. Weekly D&D is great for that. I agree. Like, it's funny how much cleaner our house is because like people come over now and like we go over places. So anyway, disgusting. I know. What else? I just want to play with all this stuff. I'm feeling the need less and less for like sort of the stuff in the middle. Even though I really like their sounds. The micro freak was trying to leave the shelf. Yeah, because modular is just so fun. I just don't have enough mixer inputs ever. There's never enough mixer inputs. Like the poor fart box is lit up and farting silently for nobody. Silent but deadly, the fart box. Anyway, yeah. I don't know what else. I mean, Cosmos stuff. Like, I actually wish that when I was at DEF CON last year, that's really one of the handful of times that Cosmos stuff has left this building, I guess. Um, I really wish I had set up this box to be, this is how it was set up. I wish I'd set it up to be like a single voice or something, so other folks that are not me got a chance to try out um, some Cosmo patching and just play around with Cosmo stuff. So that's something I might set up with that other box that's not complete. I might like sort of rig it up to be something that's got enough of each kind of module to at least like sequence a voice and maybe play some drums or something. So folks can get a feel for it, because it's wildly different than your rack and just like performing with it. Yeah. I think that's about it. I think that's about all I got. Would I let them move patch cables? Well, yeah, that was the thing. That last time there was sort of a surprise bonus set that we ended up playing, which meant that I wasn't willing to unpatch uh, because I wanted to at least have a good foundation. And setup time's pretty important. Um, but and this year I'm going to try to keep that down so that I only have one. Like if I play again, I only have one performance and can let anybody repatch anything, no problem. So yeah, I would totally let them repatch, because again, I've patched these things so many times. I could patch this exact patch and like probably blindfolded, I think, at this point. Like I just know where it all is. Um, and it seems like I would encourage them, like usually when folks that don't know about modular come up, I encourage them to wiggle knobs. I'm like, play with that, hit those buttons, here's how you add some drums, like that kind of stuff, so they can get into it without having to know about how signal path, what like how envelopes work or whatever, that kind of stuff. But folks who actually know about modular, which there was quite a few, I would happily let them patch. It's just so easy to. It's not that I want to. I'm worried about folks breaking anything. It's just really easy to get silence with modular if you unpatch the wrong thing. Like it took me the longest time to understand envelopes, because it was like my brain just couldn't understand that the sound doesn't go through it. I was like, but where do I put the audio in? And now it's silly in hindsight, but yeah, that was like something I was stuck on. And yeah, like when I visited the UK last year, I went to the Museum of Everything Else, and I was there on a closed day, and I got to like patch everything up and have some fun. But when I first got there, it had been open the weekend before, and basically everything that had patch cables was silent because somebody had unplugged something or done something really weird. Um, or like it would always make one note because they've unplugged the pitch somewhere. So it took some detective work, because the labels are all unique on some of these older mono synths and things that you've seen probably. But I got them all making really nice sounds. And probably like an hour into the open day, like when I went, and by the time I got there, they were all like either in full chaos, where like you put the headphones, or there weren't headphones, just speakers, like they would just be like wailing from a corner, or it would be silent. There is no in between. um, you'd be worried about output into input. Yeah, I would normally, but not too worried about that with these. And I would be around to answer questions and help them out and keep an eye on it. If they do something backwards and it fries something, I have all of the parts to repair these. Not a problem. So yeah. I think that the odds of that are pretty low on the modules I have. Maybe the ones that I built, but even the ones I built should be fine. Yeah, this one's fine. Like you can put as much voltage in you want as in it pretty much as you want because it's just some transistors, I believe. Transistors or what am I thinking? Why I can't remember the name of the word. Anyway, voltage switches. I forget the name. I think that's transistor, right? I don't know. So they just take voltage and then they flip a switch, so then it lights up with the 3-volt power that they need to turn these things on. Yeah, but right now they're set up so that they light up when either this voice is triggered. Wait, maybe they're on the bass voice? I don't know. Oh, no, it's the gate that lights them up, I believe. Yes, so it's a gate, not the envelope. Anyway, they light up to the bass sounds and lead sounds. So let's just do that real quick. Live. Yep. Bass, lead, and I can configure them differently because I made it nice and patchable. Anyway, that was a dumb module, but I love it. Again, I'm not too worried about folks patching things into the input into input or output into output. I personally not have problems with that, and I've done it plenty of times, but maybe I just got really lucky. I don't know how often that fries things. So until it does, I won't be worried about it. Yeah, what else? Yeah, I think it's about time to make some music. I was actually thinking of converting this. This was a badge that one of the groups at DEF CON made. That's like these sort of like circuit playgrounds that teach you how circuits work. Let's see if I can. Let me not dump soda on the floor. If I turn it on, let's see what I had it on last. Probably makes sounds. Oh, I might have left it on. Oops. Well, properly dispose of these batteries. Get some new batteries, and then we'll find out what the circuit does. But I was thinking of turning it into a Cosmo module is what I was getting at. I have this box of slightly used batteries that are not like full enough for me to use for any sort of equipment that my life might depend on, but they're good enough for synths. So, and most of the time I use recyclable batteries, but these have been accumulating, so I need to use some of them. No. Hey, buddy. Maybe those batteries are dead too. Or maybe that wasn't the power switch. That wasn't the power switch. That was the problem. Oh yeah, it makes sound. I don't know if you can hear that. I think there's a potential. Probably got noise canceled a little bit by Restream, but also, you can see I made it Cosmoable, so I can plug that in. So let's do that. See if you can even hear it. Got a long cable, and take the output of this, put it into this. I guess this one, sure. Invert the switch, turn it on. Cosmode. Anyway, yeah. I was thinking about turning that into a module because it'd be fun to make some little circuits. I'd make a little input and an output. Right now it's just an output because there's no need for an input last year. Very cool. And yeah, so taking a break. Also, like I'd be up for hearing y'all's thoughts on what should what the heck be. Like it was originally like just a time for folks to hang out and chat about modular, um, but it eventually evolved into me like having to ping people all the time to to chat about modular. So it was a lot more work uh, and just time than it was valuable to me. I mean, I always have fun. Like every time there's people, I have fun. But the days that like everybody's busy due to time conflicts, which I totally understand, are just hard. It's like, well, I'll just I either have to beg somebody last minute or I just bail. Um, yeah, so that's another thing. So what would you want to see on it? Like, what should we be doing? Again, it should probably be low key and time commitment for everyone involved, but we could definitely do themed things or uh, music showcases, stuff like that. Like Modular is kind of easy, except for I like to watch all the tracks ahead of time if I can do it, because the performances are always so long, and if there's 10 of them and I have an hour, that means I have to like somehow make them all a little bit less than 6 minutes. And so finding the best 6 minutes or representative 6 minutes of the performance is tricky. So that's that too. I probably won't be doing Modular for the next couple of months at least. Um, might join in if somebody wants to host it. And yeah, trying to think of anything else. I'm definitely not planning to make an album. No way. Um, new name when I return. This is the heck. Heck yeah. Maybe we can guest host. Yeah, I mean, there's been guest hosts. Problem is, I think it's the same problem where folks need to be able to make the time and like be able to want to do it. Um, and I think the close like Kyle stepped up and did with the for Kyle, um, which I consider basically guest hosting, because they're doing the same thing. They're hanging out and talking about synths with really well chosen samples to back them up. So yeah, that one was pretty cool. And Forrestine, you've been a host before, at least once or twice, I believe. There's even a really cool, for those of you who haven't seen the back catalog on that one, there's a really cool intro. Highly recommend looking for that one. Yeah, I mean, Modular I think is an easy one. Like I don't even like you can split up tasks. Like Stogo, you did a great job last time of making it so that we had some timestamps, which I really appreciated. That again gave us sort of a representative sample of each performance, which was cool. Yeah, so those are just some ideas. I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, I've got a whole bunch of stuff I got to give away, including including a Best Step Pro, heavily used but functional. Um, yeah, I need to figure out how to do that, but that's again more effort. So maybe I'll do that during the break or when I come back. So yeah, but I'm basically keeping an eye out for like some of that stuff, including the beat stuff. I'm sort of keeping an eye out for folks that like could use one. Like it's expensive to get into this stuff. So yeah, I'm trying not to like just give it to people. Like I don't need to give any cables to um, Bar Talk, for example. Like I don't need to give stuff to folks that already have like pretty good base on that stuff. Um, there's a couple of exceptions, like the MIDI splitter I had that I'm just not using, sent to Enthusiastic because it's like a utility thing, and I'm not using it. Get rid of it. Um, cool. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what other stuff. I just have a lot of like 1/4-inch cables, really short ones. So if you get a mixer and a lot of gear, I'll send you a bunch. And a bunch of them are stereo cables. Can you believe I have somewhere in this room a whole bunch of 10-foot 1/4-inch yellow cables stereo that I ordered stereo on accident? Jerk. I probably should just chop them up. Well, solder them to be mono cables, since I don't have a need for those long stereo cables. I just have a need for mono TS. What else? I don't know. I think that's it. I think it's time. I'm just basically rambling and out of steam since I've been up all day. Any other stuff I can give away? It's funny how sentimental I get over certain things, like monotron delay. Don't use it. Probably won't use it. But am I going to give it away? No. Because it makes those cool apocalypse sounds. Get a bunch of splitter to make those 2 cables. They're cable snakes, basically. Well, the thing is about 1/4-inch stuff is it's always gnarly. Like, let me... I actually got splitters. Let's see, is this one? This is just a... This is a Cosmo TS to dual TS, so like a signal splitter. Passive splitter, if you will. But there's some 1/4-inch ones, but they're all like this size, which is huge and heavy. So I don't use that too much. I just have a fear of like falling like this, grabbing one of these to try not to fall and breaking all of my synthesizers. So the less things that hang off, the better. You watch this show more than TV. I watch more TV than I watch this show. Yeah, now it's too bright and hot. Yeah, this is like one of the few things I stream that I don't watch afterwards. I might watch a few seconds every once in a while to make sure I didn't clip for an hour, but I don't know why I do that because it's not like I can fix it. It's like an old habit. Yeah. Or do I fall while patching often? I've never actually fallen while patching, and I don't actually fall very often. Sometimes I trip over the headphone cable, which is why you see me kicking it around a lot, sort of like whipping it around so it doesn't catch on things. But it's not bolted in well enough to cause me to fall. Typically, it just pulls the headphone socket out of the headphones, which I'm sure is great for the headphones. But luckily, it doesn't pull this down, which is nice. That's a good thing. And actually, I am using one of the TRS cables, 10-foot yellow ones, to make it longer, because you can see I apparently only turn one direction. I'm like Zoolander when I'm walking, or my dog, I guess, only turns one direction too. So I don't notice it. I don't think I'm doing it, but apparently my headphone cable gets super twisted after like 15 minutes. But yeah, I don't fall that often. The floor is pretty open. Yeah, there's lots of projects I want to do. I kind of want to like clean off. There's like a shelf over there and sort of set it up for like hooking up with some of the smaller synthesizers and doing like exploratory actual like modular jams where we're just like, let's see what happens when I do this, with the bassal drum and the dude and soft pop or something. I also don't spill that often, which is why I don't worry too much about where I set my drinks down. My water I do cap up because that thing, if it falls, will fry everything. This is not much left. Just I don't know. Any other questions? It's the last chance for months, or you can just ping me on Discord. Trying to think of what else. I wonder why that clock's not on. Probably because it's unplugged. That would do it. I like that clock not to tell time, but I have it set up that I usually have it plugged into the bass here so that when I power up the synthesizer, it basically starts at 0 and it lets me know how long I've been doing the thing. That's kind of a handy tool if I forget what time it is and all that. And yeah. Here's a question for y'all. What did this go to? Oh, this was the DFAM sync. Gotcha. I'm going to have to figure out a better way to sync that. Maybe directly from the hotbox would be the way to go. Yeah. And I don't have a reset for it. That's why every once in a while, when I start this during the thing, you'll see me advance it to there and then hit go right on the downbeat. But it needs a clock divider. I would love it if there was a clock divider built into it. And that goes for anything that has a clock input. They need clock dividers. Cool. Have a good rest of your life. This has been a good what the heck run. It's been kind of spotty the last few months. When it first started, it was every week, like pretty consistently for like way too many episodes. But yeah, that's it. Let's do an outro, a proper outro. I haven't done one in weeks either. And to do that, let me go ahead and save this project and load a new one just to see what's next. Guessing this is one that I also saved the wrong time. Ooh. Sometimes you got to dial in the right voice. And I don't know what's coming, so we're all in for a surprise. Oh, you can't hear anything because it's probably noise canceling. Let me fix that. Settings, audio. Let's get uncompressed audio. have a proper buildup? Maybe. Okay. Let's see what happens when we turn some side chain on. Oh, we gotta make this gnarlier. What is happening? Oh, I see. Hold on. I think this needs to go down a couple octaves. And it needs a lot of sleep. Up one octave. Now this one also needs to go down. Let's get some. Sorry, just figuring this out. Alright, let's see what's on the next row. Heavy.